Okay, you guys, so I was finally able to figure out what happened with After Effects and not coming back to Maya, and I'll have to show you in here. The first problem I think is frame rate. So if you hit Control K or go to composition settings, just to simplify things, I would change the composition settings to 24. Because that's what usually Maya works at, 24 frames per second. So yeah, just go to your composition settings, change it to 24. We're gonna say okay to that, and also I'm just gonna apply I'm gonna look for the effects and presets here, and I'm gonna say 3D camera tracker. And it's just gonna apply it, drag it over to my film plate. Analyzing background. If it doesn't work, you know what you need to do. Just go to the advanced tab, and sometimes it's set to automatic. I think you have to change it to typical so it works. So see, it failed again, so I'm gonna change it here to auto detect to typical, and usually that will fix the problem. It was pretty quick. So I'm gonna come here and find a good so I'm zooming in with the mouse wheel, and I'm just trying to find a good spot that will stay put there. And that looks like this, kind of looks like it's on the same plane than the ground. We're gonna try it. So I'm gonna say create null and camera. So I'm right clicking on the target, and remember, if you don't see the target, you just have to increase the scale of them over here on the effects window. Now I'm gonna see my null, see if it's sticking. It seems to be sticking really good, and it's kind of hard to see because the null is so small. So I'm just gonna make it larger. I'm gonna hit S to get the scale, make it larger, and make sure it's sticking to the ground. So it looks like it's sticking fairly good. Yeah, it's pretty good actually. The only thing is, like, if you were to imagine a grid on the ground of this park, you could, these bars kind of help you, even the tiles kind of help you. This looks off. The null looks a little turned. If you were to put a grid in here, like if this was your Maya grid, and this were your squares going side to side and into the scene, Maya puts the grid on the position of this guy, of the null. And if you see, the null's kind of twisted, and this is where I was making the mistake, why I wasn't matching. So before we parent the camera, we're gonna turn the null a bit. So I'm gonna hit W, it gives you the rotate tool, which is up here. You can also click on it, and on the Z axis I'm gonna rotate it so it kind of, dang it, not that, I want to rotate the null. I'm gonna rotate the null a bit so it kind of matches my imaginary grid, or the grid that I think would be on the scene. So that's where Maya is gonna put the Maya grid. It's gonna put it on the position of this null. So if it was twisted like it was before, that's what Maya would do. It would put it twisted. So we don't want that. We want it to be aligned. And if you look at this darker tiles here, it looks like it's doing pretty good actually, like it's staying put. Okay, so I'm gonna say that's good, and this is also the other problem I was having. I need to zero out the position and all that after I parent the camera. So I'm gonna parent the camera first, and on the null I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna reset the scale, and this is not going to affect the camera because the camera is already parented to it. So I'm going to say hit the scale's got to be 100, not 0, 100, and nothing's changed here because the camera is already parented to it. Then the position, we're gonna reset to 0. 0. The orientation, we're also gonna reset to 0. And I think this is what I was doing backwards before. So you wanna adjust the null first to kind of an imaginary grid on your ground, and then parent the camera, and then reset everything to 0, so the grid is set aligned to this. Now that I have these two how I want them, and this took me I don't know how many times to figure it out. I was hating life for a minute here. I'm gonna go run my script to export. Remember that script is on the files for the class. So After Effects export modified, you say open, it's gonna run it. Oh, open on the other window. So here it is, and we're gonna say match move 3, and on the options we're gonna do what we did last time. So we're gonna say shift to 0, we're gonna turn that off, scale 1 to 1, and turn off, open the 4 views of Maya. And then we're gonna say export, and you have to make sure both of these guys are selected, the null and the camera. So I'm gonna say export. Oh, I already have a match move 3. I did so many of them. Let me change the name. Let's see, export. It's gonna do its thing. Then I'm gonna open Maya. Okay, so here's Maya open. For some reason my perspective window was off, which was throwing me off. Like, you don't see the grid and it's like, what's going on? Like, even if I make a cube here, it's not showing up on the grid. So I don't know what's going on with my default view. If I hit F, you know, it shows up, but otherwise it doesn't. So this was throwing me off too. But anyway, I'm not gonna use this camera, so I'm just gonna import that scene. I'm gonna say open scene, and open scene. I think it's on the desktop. Yeah, match move 77. So I'm gonna open it, not save this scene, and see, this is what's throwing me off before. Like, my perspective window is like way out in the distance. But if I add a cube and hit F, there it is, there's the grid. Now I'm gonna select the camera I imported, and I'm gonna say panels and look through selected, because we want to look through that camera. There's my grid, and if I turn this on, that's my resolution gate, this little circle with the blue dot, with the square. So that's showing me the resolution of the camera, and it should come with the resolution from After Effects. That should be the same size. Now if you play through, and let's put a cube here so we can see something. I'm gonna make it bigger. If we play through, you know, it'll look just like the movement we capture. And actually our grid, or our null, is supposed to be saying where the grid is. So so if I don't want this to be kind of halfway into the ground, I can just move it up so it kind of sits on the grid. So it's a little better match. Now, one problem you might run into, you know, the first thing I ran into was the frame per second. I think Maya has trouble figuring out the 23.95 frames per second. So I just changed my comp in After Effects to 24, and I came here and I also changed it to 24 frames per second. The other thing might be that when you import the image sequence, like if I click in this to import the image sequence, I'm gonna say JPEG sequence, import frame 0, open, You know, there it is. It's just on top of my cube and my grid, which I don't like. So I'm gonna open the attributes for the image sequence. Yeah, they have it selected. And I'm gonna say use image sequence, and the depth is 1, so I'm gonna make it 100, so it's farther back, and now my cube's on top. So the other thing I run into, I don't know if it's gonna happen now, but yeah, it is happening. So if you look, it's like it's 1 frame off, and I think it has to do with Maya starting from frame 1, and it puts your track on frame 1. So I was like, that was driving me crazy. It's a little bit off. It's like really good, but it's a little bit off, like 1 frame. It's like going ahead on the movement. So all you have to do is and in After Effects this is really easy. You can just, you know, you have the layer with the cube of Maya, which we're gonna bring next time. We're gonna do that after you guys match the lighting, and you just slide the layer around. You know, you can move it however many frames you need. But in Maya, it was driving me crazy because I didn't know what was going on. So all you have to do again is select your image sequence, and I think it's 1 frame ahead because it starts on frame 1 instead of frame 0. So I'm gonna open the attributes of it, and there is actually an offset here on the attributes of your image sequence. So I just put -1 in here, and see it's caching here. And now if you play it, it should be pretty much perfect. Yeah, there we go. See, it's like sitting on the grid. It looks like it's sitting on the ground. We're good to go. Perfect. It even has the last frame that says failed to solve because there was nothing on the last frame of After Effects. But yeah, that's how you get your film into Maya and you match the movement. Sorry I had these problems, you know, but you run into these kind of things and sometimes it takes a while to figure it out. I want you to try to figure it out. If you can't, I'll give you the file. Let me know and I'll send you the file with this tracked on. But I want you to give it a shot. You know, now that you know all the problems I run into, it should be fairly easy to figure it out. Okay, and that's it. Now the only thing you need to do is match the lighting. You know, that's the assignment, to match the lighting. This match move is part of it, but match the lighting is the important thing. So you'll have a pretty strong directional light in here, and you can even load one of these pictures. You can one of those JPEGs and put it on a sky dome, so it projects this light into the cube. And that is that.